Hey YouTube, this video is going to be slightly different to my other videos, purely because of the direction I'm going to be going on into in this video than compared to the other ones. So in my other videos, I always talk about quality. Quality comes first. I always say, make sure that you keep the quantity down, the quality high. So you keep the reps low, so it's easier for you to put your all into every single rep. And so the quality of the reps stay as high as possible. Because when you have less to work with, you have to figure out how to make this less better. And this is also good for when you're actually going out in a race, because the less reps you do, the better it is. Because when you go to a race, you only get one rep for each event. So making sure that every single rep you do is the best of your ability, so that the likelihood of you going to a race and having that be the best of your ability is important. But this video is going to be different, like I said. In this video, I'm actually not going to be talking about quality. I'm going to be talking about quantity. In this video, I'm actually going to be talking about the stuff that you can do every day as a sprinter, or more as an athlete, but a sprinter would benefit from this. As a sprinter, this is why I'm doing this, that you can do every day in as high of a quantity as you want. The reason why the quantity is basically unlimited is because obviously there is a cap. If you do too much of something, you do start to see negative returns, or you just break. But what I'm going to be talking about will be stuff that most people won't be doing a lot of, purely because you won't be seeing the progress. It's just like how when you go to the gym. When you go to the gym, most of your time is obviously you're training your muscles consciously, but you're unconsciously or unknowingly training your tendons and your bones. The stronger and harder your bones are, the thicker they become, and the easier it is for you to sprint. The reason why you have to stay relaxed is because when you're sprinting, is because when you don't stay relaxed, your muscles, they end up impeding the bone, so they're not able to absorb force properly. And this also happens to also impede the tendons, so they're not able to move as well as they could. Because when you need tense of your muscles, what happens is your bones and your tendons are not able to get into the positions they're supposed to be. If they're supposed to be like this, muscles just make them like this. We don't want that. We want it to be flowy, springy, like how you would if we was trying to actually sprint. And you're training all of this, but you're not really focusing on all of this. You're focusing on the muscle. Reason being is when you look at the muscle, you get to see visual improvements. But the problem is muscle can only really help you for the first 5 steps. After that, it's mostly just your tendons doing majority of the work, with some help from the bones, obviously, and the muscles are helping as well. But the main work is your tendons. Once your muscles have produced the maximum amount of force, it's just your tendons. The reason why this is so important is because most of the time when you're training, you're only really focusing on your muscles. You see your muscles get big, but you don't actually look at your tendons. You don't really look at, obviously you can't really look at your bones or your tendons because they're just inside you. But these are the main components you actually use whilst you're sprinting. So making sure they're as strong as possible is extremely important. For the bones, we're not going to be talking about this. We're actually going to be talking about the tendons. Tendons, because you can't see it, doesn't really get trained as much as it could. And tendons have a slower adaptation period than muscles do. So it's important that we really hammer our tendons. And also, you also work on these muscles that we just generally cannot see much. For example, if you used to go to gym, you could have a much higher chance of someone complimenting your quads, hamstrings, glutes, calves, or anything like biceps, for example. But the chance of someone looking at you going, hey, you got some nice hip flexes, I highly doubt that's ever going to happen. But this is what we should be focusing on, because this is the main focus of our sprinting. So making sure that these types of muscles and the areas around it are as strong and mobile as possible is important, so we must be focusing on them. Which means the thing we can be doing the highest quantity of, drum roll, is isometrics. Isometrics, mobility, stuff like this. Isometrics and mobility. This is for your muscles, this is for your tendons. Isometrics and mobility. Because if your body has energy leakages or weaknesses, essentially you're only as strong as your weakest link. And if you're, for example, obviously this is probably not true, but say your hips could produce 1,000 kilograms of force, but your knee can only withstand 500 and your ankle can only withstand 100, then you're only going to output about 100 kilograms into the track with each step. And if you weigh close to 100 kg, this is very useful because you're not going to be traveling very far or very fast. But if instead you're calves were able to withstand 1,000 kilograms, your knee was still able to withstand 500, and then your ankles, not ankles, your hips were able to produce, let's not say 100 because that's a bit too low. They're able to withstand or produce the same amount of force your knee could, or maybe slightly less, so let's say 400. This is a different story because now every single step you take, your brain is no longer limiting what you produce. So every single step is 400 kg, 400 kg, 400 kg, 400 kg. And the reason why I said this in this direction is because you want your knees to be stronger than your hips and your ankles to be stronger than your knees. That way, every single part in your leg is able to withstand the entirety of the force, so your brain releases the entirety of the force. But this is just one example, because you've got other examples in different parts of your body that you also need to focus on, like your back, your core, and stuff like that, and your neck as well. But these are like the main ones that you think of, which is just your legs and your anterior and posterior chain. Just these, make sure they're as strong as possible, but mainly the joints. You've only got three for whilst you're sprinting once you go below the hips. So making sure these are as strong as possible is important, because if your hip can produce a crazy amount of force, but your ankle can't withstand a crazy amount of force, let's say your body let you produce that force, before you get to 100 meters, you're going to injure your ankle 100%. Or maybe if it's not even your ankle, it might even be your knee. And joint injuries take the longest amount of time to recover from generally. So making sure we don't have any is important. So making sure we do isometrics and we work on our mobility is extremely important. Isometrics can be done for the muscle and tendons and the bone as well, because now we're looking at the knee and the ankle. Because the thing is, with the bone, you don't actually strengthen the bone itself, you strengthen the muscle and tendons around the bone. So it's important that we have these isometrics that are able to strengthen us, so that we're able to withstand these forces essentially. Because what ends up happening is you have high squat numbers, high deadlift numbers, high whatever in the gym, but you go to the track and you're losing against people who have numbers lower than you in the gym. You're like, I have more power, so why am I losing? And it's not that you're weaker than them, you're clearly stronger. But once your body looks at everything you have and it was to compare itself to these people you're losing to, it'd say, okay, I'm stronger, but I can't release this force. It's kind of like having a gun and it only shoots like peanuts, let's say. It's only able to shoot peanuts, but you have ammo that's the size of a basketball. This basketball will not be shot from a gun that only shoots peanuts. You're going to need a bigger gun. And you think that by lifting heavy in a gym will give you a bigger gun. No, it will give you more ammo. What you want to do is strengthen what you already have, so the gun gets bigger, so it's actually able to shoot these basketballs efficiently. Otherwise, you're just going to have to like whack the basketballs with your hands or the gun, which obviously isn't very efficient compared to just having peanuts and shooting them. And that's what we want to get whilst we're doing these isometrics and we're working on mobility, being able to have more mobility to decrease the chance of injury, especially in our hips, and also make it so that we have more mobility we have in our hips, basically longer stride length. It's just that simple. And then with isometrics, we want to strengthen all the muscles we can so that we're able to produce as much force as possible. Making sure your knees, your ankles, and your hips are strong is extremely important. Obviously, you can't neglect upper body, like your core, your back, and all your arms. And your shoulders as well. So you need to make sure that these are also strong through isometrics, but making sure that specifically the hips, the knees, and the ankle are strong, but in the reverse order. You want your ankles, then your knee, then your hip, in order strength-wise, is extremely important. And you can do as many reps for any exercise that would strengthen these stuff, as well as getting mobility here, because you want to make sure that your mobility is completely unlocked, so you're able to dorsiflex as high as possible and plantar flex as much as possible. Obviously, whilst you're sprinting, you actually don't want to plantar flex whilst you're at top speed. However, plantar flexion is generally what you're mostly getting once you're trying to get up to speed for the first few steps. So making sure that that is as capable as possible is important. And also, again, with isometrics, you get to train muscles that are important that we tend to neglect, like our soleus. Our soleus is located in our calves. It is paired along with the gastrocnemius. However, many people don't realize is they don't actually train it. For example, a lot of people, they do calf raises and they think, yeah, I'm training my calves. You're training half of your calves. You're training the gastroc. You're completely ignoring the soleus. To train the soleus, you need to bend your knees and do the calf raises. And if anyone's ever done calf raises, which I'm sure everyone here who's watched it has done at least one calf raise, then we can all agree that calf raises are very inefficient and they're just garbage essentially. But if you do isometrics, you're able to be under tension for longer. For example, if you do 10 calf raises, you might actually only be under tension for like 3 seconds. But if you do 10 seconds of an isometric for a calf raise, well, then that's 10 seconds of you being under tension for calf raises, essentially, where you're actively strengthening the muscle, which is why isometrics is just generally much better than just doing reps and reps and reps. If you actually want to get stronger in the gym as well, isometric training is one of the holy grails. It's a goat of a movement to do for any muscle, because you just strengthen the muscle and the tendons and you get to sustain the tension for long enough for your body to be like, okay, my body's putting me under this. I need to quickly adapt with this load so I'm able to improve. But whilst you're sprinting, making it so that your body's like, okay, I know how this muscle feels, I need to use it. That's generally one of the reasons why isometrics are so good for sprinting, because you get to feel what you don't normally feel. For example, if you don't normally sprint with your hips and your glutes, isometrics would be a great way for you to like, okay, this is burning. Okay, I can feel this muscle now. I usually couldn't feel this muscle, but now I know I know what this muscle feels, so now I know I need to actually use it. Well, I know how to try to use it whilst I'm sprinting. And then being able to strengthen all of this is important, because if you don't strengthen it, you can go to I don't care if you can squat, deadlift, and bench press 1,000 kg each. If your knees and your ankles aren't strong, none of this force is going to get produced on the track. If you look at like bodybuilders and then strong men, for example, I'm sure their ankles and their knees are very strong. I don't doubt that, because to get to their level, it kind of has to be. But the chance of their hips being stronger than, or just generally anything knee up being stronger than the knee down, is much higher, which would be part of the reason why they're not able to sprint extremely fast times or fast times at all, because their body just isn't capable of doing this. I'm sure if they lost weight, yeah, they might be able to start sprinting fast times. However, they won't be, because this isn't their event, so they have to focus on different things. So remembering that we're sprinters, and just because we can't see everything we're training for doesn't mean it's not important, because generally, especially with athletic performance, the things you can't see but improve tend to be the most important things towards improving yourself on the track or wherever you are, whether that's football, basketball, whatever. If you like my video, like the video, let me know in the comments section below. Check the description, because anything I forget to say in the video, I always put in the description. And if you like my content, subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot. I post every 2 days at 1 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. If you don't know when that is, just hit the bell and then you'll be notified instantly.